Hey, what is up? And welcome to another episode of our R.I.P run. Now, for today's episode, I actually have a special topic prepared. It's quite different from the last ones. Last ones were kind of freestyle talks. Today, I actually have kind of prepared what I'm going to be talking about. It is not such a freestyle. And the specific topic we'll be talking about today is people being right at the wrong time. I thought this would be quite interesting to look at, since not so long ago I talked with my cousin about the Jeffrey Epstein case. Specifically how he told me that Ryan Garcia was posting on Twitter some like crazy shit that I didn't even know what it was. Like, there are these satanistic rituals going on. We'll talk about it in a while. But what's quite interesting is that historically there have always been many cases of people being wrong, or actually people being right at the wrong time. And then how can we even distinguish, right? Like, how do you know? Obviously, you can have some people that have psychosis, that see things that are clearly not there. But if someone is stating that lizard people rule the earth, like, theoretically, the odds of that are I guess low. Even though when you technically think about it, like, lizard people, they are actually ruling the earth because we have this lizard brain in us. So I guess one of the some of the people like are actually right in that when they say that reptilians are ruling the earth, because the politicians, they tend to think with that very simplest part of their brain. But that's not the case we're making, right? It's like, okay, well, sure, those people can be right. But let's actually talk about people that were genuinely right and they were made fun of. They were despised by others. And we can see how far the human nature leads to when you have this kind of outsider that's saying something that's against the norm. This is quite an interesting lesson to take. So first example I have over here is this guy called Ignaz Semmelweis. I'm actually not sure how to properly pronounce, but it's a very popular case. Now, what did this guy do? I think this case, as soon as I heard about it, like, this is one of the cases that got me into this, seeing how far the human nature goes in this. So this guy, Ignaz Semmelweis. Now, who is this guy? It was like in the 1800s, where people didn't really know much about bacteria and all that stuff and germs. So, like, he didn't say something that insane. He was like, you know, guys, maybe when you work in a hospital, maybe you should wash your hands. Oh, in today's age, like this is obvious, right? Like, we take extreme measures to perfectly disinfectate and, or how do you say it? To sanitate perfectly. Back then, this wasn't normal. Basically, what this guy did, he did some kind of research of a hospital where they were doing childbirth at this hospital. So he did some kind of research, and he noticed, why are there way more deaths in this specific hospital, right? Like, why does it happen so often? And I'm pretty sure, like, it was a high rate of death in childbirth in this specific hospital, right? Like, it was like, I'm pretty sure like 5% of the patients died. Maybe that's a bit too much. I'm not sure. So it was like, that's kind of fucking weird. Why is it happening? And he then noticed one thing. Was like, hold up. these doctors, they actually go to autopsies. They go to fucking dead bodies. And then they go to do childbirth? There might be some issue with that. Well, now we would know. Because they didn't even wash their hands. Which is insane. So, he actually proposed that let's just try and wash our hands after we go from investigating the dead bodies, doing an autopsy on it, to doing a childbirth. The rate dropped incredibly. It was like, before it could have been like 10% of the mothers died. People didn't even want to take the risk of doing childbirth at that hospital, to where like basically no one died. It was much more safer. You know what the sad part of this story is? People saw the results, and they weren't thanking him. Like there was no, oh thank you Ignace. They got mad at him, like incredibly mad. And they even fired him. And guess what? This guy, he was put in a fucking mental hospital. He was called crazy. He was bullied. And like now we look at it and we see how fucking incredible that is. This guy could have saved so many people. Like the story of that guy is so sad. Imagine proposing that you should wash your hands. Then you actually do an experiment where you do the washing of the hands in the hospital after doing autopsies. It works. And then they tell you, you know what? Fuck you. They fire you. When you get mad, he actually got really mad. He wrote letters to doctors. He was like saying, you're killing mothers. You're killing them. They put him in a mental hospital because of that. They called him crazy. Just so they don't have to deal with it. Like, that's, in my opinion, I don't even know what to think about it. Like, honestly, it's insane. Poor guy. Poor guy, what can we say? Okay, so that's one case of a person being right at the wrong time. Now, one of the most popular cases of this, you could have heard, is Galileo Galilei. Now, Galileo, like, it's a fucking classic. Imagine living in the 17th century. And, you know, this guy, he must have been really fucking smart. Like, he just looked at the sky and just thought, you know, maybe Earth is not the center of the universe. I don't know why people were so sure of that. Like, what kind of ego do you have to think that Earth is the center of the universe? He thought that the Earth moves and spins and all kinds of stuff. And once again, going to the extreme of, you know, maybe you're wrong. No, they didn't do that. Like, they weren't like, you know, maybe you can be wrong. No, they put him on trial and literally forced him to say that I'm wrong. I'm not right in what I'm saying. Even though the guy was right. So this guy was threatening. I think a big thing to learn from this is that some kind of threatening of authority gets you in trouble. No matter if you're wrong, no matter if you're right, whenever you threaten the authority, in this case he was threatening the authority of church. And they didn't like that. Like, they needed to be the bosses. Like, they needed to have the claim that Earth is the center of the universe. And if that would be proven wrong, then that would go against their agenda, right? So, guy was forced to say he is wrong, even though nobody really knew, right? Like, he clearly was right. Like, even though, like, why is it never that? That's one big thing to learn. Like, you see this in totalitarian systems, that you're never allowed to question the system. Whenever you are not allowed to question the system, you know there's something wrong. So you can learn this in school, maybe, that you may have some kind of teachers that are not like that. They allow you to question their teaching methods, right? And I think that is right. I think that's the way to do it, to be quite frank with you. So you can kind of intuitively then figure out that if there's someone that doesn't allow you to question their methods, he can either be very arrogant. Sure, that can be the case, but it can also be very questionable. Like if the guy, like if a person doesn't even allow the possibility of them being wrong, well, I mean, then there most likely is something wrong. So that's one thing to really think about. Now, next up, we have another guy that was going against an agenda that was more than 400 years ago. Now, this is another guy that was so ahead of his time, it's fucking incredible. His name was Giordano Bruno. He lived in Europe, like, I think it was like today's Italy. I'm not really a historian, I have to admit, like, I fucking suck ass at that. But he lived in Europe. And he wasn't actually a stupid, like, guy. Like, none of these people were stupid at all. He was very well educated. And what he was claiming was quite reasonable. So, what was the guy claiming? He was claiming more than 400 years ago, when the church, once again, was the ruling power of the world, that the universe is infinite. Why was this such a problem? Like, why would this be such a problem? Well, the reason being is, this was going against Christianity. They were claiming that there's this only one world, and therefore they had this control over it, and you have this whole thing of going to heaven. And they didn't want to admit that. And not only that, this guy was also claiming the fact that stars are just other suns, therefore there can be other universes and all that. Now this case is more extreme. In Galileo's case, they forced him to say that he is wrong. He actually did that. Well, this guy, it wasn't gonna be that easy. Giordano was like, what? I'm not gonna do that. I do not repent. Is what he said. Well, they took him to prison in the year 1592. He spent 8 years in prison. And he would have done right if he was like Jeffrey Epstein and outed. Because back then, like, the form of punishment, it wasn't as light. This guy was skinned alive. His skin was literally taken off. And then he was burned. Not only that, like, he skinned him, burned him. Yep. What happens? And guess what? He was right. We actually know in today's science that the universe is... It is actually... It actually is infinite. It is infinitely expanding, as they say, even though I don't even know what that really means. I have to admit. Maybe if I would have heard him say that back then, I would have also thought he's crazy. I don't know. In all of these cases, it's crazy that all of these people were right. Now, you can also make the argument of saying that maybe there are some crazy people that are actually right. And you know what? Maybe there are. What do we know? Well, on to another case of a person we have over here. But before we go into it, I think I want to say one more lesson to learn from this is that these guys, they weren't heroes because they managed to be right. Like, they could have easily been wrong. It isn't... This guy didn't have some, like, concrete facts proving his theory. It just made sense to him, right? But the reason why we consider these people heroes is that they weren't foolish. They were clearly well educated. They fought this stuff out, and they stood ground. Like there are some stubborn people nowadays that stand their ground, even though like they don't have much reason to. And I don't think this is the case. This isn't the case of people being stubborn, right? Matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. Like, I'm pretty sure if someone would have had a serious debate with them and seriously talked about, hey, maybe your argument is false and its logic falls in this and that, They would have definitely talked about it with them, but nobody has really done that. Like they just forced them to say, no, say you're wrong, or we're gonna fucking skin and burn you alive. Like, and imagine saying no to that. Like, imagine saying, you know what? I'm not gonna say I'm wrong. What kind of balls do you have to have? That is incredible. Like, sure, I am a. I would say I'm a pretty. I don't know. I don't want to say heroic. That's kind of cringe. I'm a pretty like honorful guy, but like honestly, if I knew the punishment back then was being skinned and burned, I would have also probably said I'm right. Like, look at Galileo. Like, he did it anyways, and we still remember to this day what kind of a goat he is. Like, thinking about that the Earth is moving, and it's not the center of the universe. Like, obviously back then, like, people have thought that the Earth is the center of the universe a lot. I don't even know why it was like such a big thing back then. It all has to do with Christianity. Like, think about how many people died of fucking Christianity, though. That's insane. So before we go into the next level, let's start off with another case of a person that was right at the wrong time. Now, this is a guy you have definitely heard of. His name is Nikola Tesla. Now, this guy, Nikola Tesla, he is the fucking goat. Like, without him, today's world wouldn't exist at all. He was an incredible scientist, incredible mind. His main problem was, though, he wasn't as I don't want to say greedy, but well, I guess greedy, yeah, in a sense. He was thinking more about the world as a whole and the future, and he was thinking less about gaining money from it, you know. So this guy, he didn't exactly invent electricity. Like, there was a thing that was in the nature. I'm not really sure of how it works, to be quite frank with you. I never really was that interested in it. But basically, you have these static charges, you have lightnings, you have sparks, yada yada yada. Like, electricity existed. Like, he didn't invent that, right? But there was a way that we were trying to get it under our control. Now, there's this other guy you might have heard of. His name was Thomas Edison. Now, a common myth there is that Thomas Edison actually invented the light bulb. And that is not true at all. Apparently, he just stole the patent and perfected it. And just from that alone, you can kind of tell what kind of a guy he was. Like, he was the very opposite of Nikola Tesla. Like, this Edison guy wanted to get money, and a lot of fucking money. Nonetheless, it was great that, like, hey, he still got this electricity thing under his control, right? That's great. But he wasn't like Tesla. Like, he wasn't trying to globalize it. He apparently had this like shittier way of doing it. It was very chaotic, local, and limited. Like, there was no way today's world would have been like it is without Tesla and his way of, let's say, working with electricity. If Thomas Edison's usage of electricity would still be used, like, it could light a few light bulbs, maybe power a small area, but it could never travel that far as it does today. So Tesla, he actually began and changed that. He invented the alternating current, which we nowadays know as AC. Now, once again, let's not get caught up with the details, okay? So let's just say that this is the way of being able to use electricity more globally. Along with motors and like transformators and stuff like that. I'm once again not really sure. I think it was like some kind of generators that can like send electricity over a very far distance. And it's not that important, but exactly this guy invented. What was important, and is important nowadays, that like if you look at a socket in your wall, or a power line going like against like through countries far, every city that has lights at the night, that is thanks to Tesla and this alternating current. And that is what is important. So you might think, okay, but what does this have to do with people being right at the wrong time? Well, yeah, he was right in this, and he was getting supported in that. But the problem was, he was right in the mindset. Well, it's very subjective on whether or not he was right. Like, maybe it's not the right way to do it. I personally think it is the right way to do it, because he was not a businessman at all. He was not trying to make a lot of money on this. He was not a salesman. And, like, people didn't understand that. This didn't make any sense. The biggest problem was, there was this even one case where he had a tower. It was called the Wardenclyffe Tower. Basically what this project was, is that it was a tower that was supposed to transmit electricity throughout the whole world without, like, using wirelessly. Now that is incredible. Like, in the time it was invented, it was like the 1800s, I think, or maybe 1900s, I'm not sure. Still, it was such a major thing. Now this was even supported and funded by JP Morgan. And then, you know, like, I don't really know how this happened. Like, did the guys not talk about it beforehand? I'm not sure. But basically, this was funded by JP Morgan. Great. And then JP Morgan asks Tesla, okay, this is great. Like, this is a giant project. Like, you know, transmitting energy throughout the whole planet. Like, this is insane. But how are we gonna make money of this? And, well, Tesla was like, I think energy should just be free. So JP Morgan obviously stopped the fucking funding of that. Now that completely broke Tesla. Like, he was then, from then, called lunatic. Nobody really took him that seriously, even though he invented such a major thing. And not only that, like, it was much more. Like, this guy was basically a fucking genius. But look at how far the human greed goes. Like, he was thinking about free energy for the whole world. He was trying to transmit it wirelessly, which thankfully we have nowadays. We should really be thankful for that. And thanks to this guy, that, like, it worked. But back then, it was slowed down by the hungry people for money. Like, all of the funding stopped, all the projects stopped. Even, like, the tower I mentioned, it stopped because of the amount of income this would generate would be very low, because he wanted energy to be free and available for the whole world. Now you can even see it nowadays. We pay a lot for electricity. It's like, okay, I guess it's a reasonable amount for such a huge benefit that it gives you. And I'm not sure what Tesla would say to the current state of the world. I think he would be proud of the way we use this energy. Not sure. So he was once called a genius, and then this all broke him. He was so ahead of his time, and he basically died a loser. Like, he was like Vincent van Gogh. Like, such a sad story, honestly. But now we can, I mean, maybe it was worth it. Maybe when you really think about it, all of that was worth it, because now we can admire this guy for what he's done. One thing that this makes me think about is that you see nowadays, you have all of these theories about, like, 5G fucking giving you radiation or whatever, and I didn't even know, like, the elites ruling the world. And I think when we look at these cases, like, all of this stuff, it sounds crazy, right? Like, it's very counterintuitive from what you're taught. And I think there's a lot of power in controlling the people over information. Now, I don't mean to get into conspiracy theories. Like this is a, I don't know. Like, I'm not a fan of conspiracies, right? To be quite frank with you. I think some of them can be too crazy. Even though I'm thinking about doing a video about conspiracies that might actually be right, because that always seemed interesting to me. But one thing to really think about is that those people, like not so long ago, there was this guy. He's like a brother of my girlfriend, and he got this automatic, what do you call it? Vacuum cleaner. It's like one of those. It's a Roomba. I think it's called a Roomba in English. And this guy said, well, it's a stalking device from China. And you know, this sounds goofy as fuck when you really, like, when the guy says that out loud. I think one thing to learn from that, like, even if you might be right, you really have to learn to differentiate when and when not to put out these opinions you have. Let's say you're at the workplace, right? And that's a very common scenario, or in school. It's you have this herd mindset, like it usually has been this way. You have a collective of people, they agree on something, and then imagine there's this guy that comes and says, you're all wrong. Well, what's gonna happen? It's not like the people are gonna stop and think about something and think, are we really wrong in this? No, they're gonna see that there is this collective of us against this person, and clearly he's an enemy of us, so fuck him. So you have to be very, very careful about holding these opinions. There's this one very popular video of Jordan Peterson talking about this experiment with zebras, where scientists marked them with a red dot, and as soon as they done that, the lions got them. Now the stripes on the zebra are there to camouflage them. Now, it doesn't really make sense, right? You can see a zebra from miles away, but it actually keeps them with the herd. You cannot really differentiate a zebra from another zebra because they all look the fucking same. And the way that lions, they track zebras, is that they look at the weak ones. Let's say one has a weak leg, or like a broken leg, is smaller than the rest of the herd. Well, then they know they can get that one. They have a way differentiate that zebra. They have a way to stalk them. They have something that makes the zebra different. And if you will have some major thing like this that makes you different, some opinion like this, like saying Roomba is a stalking device from China, which can be right. Like, honestly, who fucking knows? I don't know. I'm pretty sure if that was the case, like, I don't know, like, how advanced can the technology be that, like, wouldn't that be very risky that some people are just gonna figure it out after taking the fucking Roomba apart? I'm not sure. Like I don't know. I don't know. Okay, it doesn't seem to make sense to me, but it can be right. But nonetheless, whether or not you're right, like, you have to be very careful. On the other hand, I think this can also be very dangerous because you have these historical cases of people being right at the wrong time, and then you can just have ignorant people that don't really, like, I'm pretty sure when you have Tesla, like, he was a fucking genius, right? Like, there's no doubt about it. When you have all of these people like Galileo, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have been as stubborn in their ideas. Like, I'm pretty sure if someone would have come with a reasonable argument, with proof of, maybe you can be wrong in this, they would either think about it or think about improving their theory. The problem nowadays is, when you have all of these conspiracy theories and stuff, people don't really think that way. They want to be right. They want to be different. So don't be motivated by that also. Like, I don't think that is right either way. But since we're talking about technology and the Roomba case, I think a very cool guy to talk about next. And even though he wasn't exactly right at the wrong time, he was factually right at the right time. But it's another case of a hero of modern days age. and it also has to do with technology, and it's the case of Edward Snowden. Now, in case you haven't heard of Edward Snowden, this is insane. Like the stuff that he discovered is so groundbreaking, and it's so incredible for me to imagine it was so many years ago already, and it's still, like, to this day, it's so mind-blowing to see like how much power the government has. So Edward Snowden, who the fuck is Edward Snowden? Like, you might have heard of him, you might have not. If you're living in America, you most likely have heard of him. It's quite good to know, I guess, since it's very it's specific for America, but I think it happens globally, all around the earth. Now, back then, this guy, like, he wasn't a hero. He was just a casual guy working at NSA. And what this case teaches us, that all of us can be a hero if we get into some circumstances that allow us to be. Now, the thing with Edward Snowden, okay, so he was working at NSA. So what is NSA? Back then, this was in the year 2013. I think people have genuinely thought that, okay, NSA, this is national security. This thing is collecting data from all this, like, internet and stuff, and it's protecting us from, like, terrorists and all of that. Now, obviously, there was some kind of surveillance. Like, people must have known that there was a surveillance going on. But the thing was, like, nobody knew that it would be, like, watching average people, right? Like, nobody thought that, okay, the government is watching me, who I call, and whatever, right? Like, people just thought, okay, so if there's a terrorist, the government can watch them. And that's great. That's a great thing. Obviously, there probably have been conspiracy theories about that back then. But the important lesson to learn from this is that Edward Snowden, he was this guy that worked at NSA. He thought that he's doing a great thing working at national security. He's protecting the country. Like, that's a great cause to do. You're helping the people of your country. So he worked there, and then he suddenly saw some stuff. There was this project called Prism. It's a very important part of this story. Now, Snowden, he worked as an IT guy, and he saw what this stuff does. And he realized, hold on, this isn't surveillance. This is more than just surveillance. Like, this isn't just like, oh, we're gonna watch someone in case they do something very bad. We can watch anyone and whatever they do, because we fucking can. And Snowden thought this is wrong. This is very wrong. So what he decided to do is, he fought for a while, and he actually decided to speak up about it. So he leaked some documents to journalists about what the government can watch. And I actually have a list over here of what he leaked back in the year 2013. So think about just back then what the government was able to do, and we didn't even know what they can do nowadays. Like, what can be hidden from us, right? I once again, I don't mean to sound like a schizo. I mean, like, that's why I said with the Roomba thing, that doesn't even sound that crazy to me. And why would you even care that a Roomba is a fucking Chinese technology to scan your room when, like, the government practically can know everything about you if they really want to? So what is 100% known from the 2013 leak that Snowden did, that the government can watch, was phone call metadata. And what this means is who you call, when, how long, how often. I'm not really sure if it was leaked what you say in the call. That isn't clear to me. But that's one thing that was leaked. Next up, SMS metadata. So who you text, what you text, this is basically everything. Email metadata. I mean, back then emails were more popular, so you can only imagine nowadays that probably it is not impossible to see who you message on social media. Like, there was this huge case with Mark Zuckerberg that he was allowing information to the third-party systems, or whatever you call them, and they could see what the users of Facebook can actually text other people, which is insane. And the worst thing is that, like, you really have no option to do anything. Now, I'm just gonna read some more examples of what was leaked. So, next up, browser activity patterns, contact networks and social graphs, location data derived from mobile phones, which is fucking insane and really sad to think about. I have to focus on the game a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna blow them up and collect my coins and read some more. Long-term storage of collected metadata, so basically like everything. Cloud stored data under certain legal frameworks. Data shared between allied intelligence agencies. Records of communications between foreign leaders. Records of communications of ordinary citizens without warrants. Encrypted data stored for future decryption. So basically the government was storing data in case they need it. So, like, I think one thing to get out of your mind is the fact that, like, the government cares about you. Like, I'm pretty sure they don't exactly care about you. But if there was some kind of problem with you, it wouldn't be hard for them to get everything out of you. There's also monitoring of journalists' communication metadata, monitoring of activists' communication metadata, monitoring of international communication by default. One thing to really think about, like, nowadays we have this free speech. But is it really free speech when you're getting monitored? Oh, you just... think about it this way, like, you let the people say whatever they want. And then there's no, like, real risk to it. When anyone can say anything, nothing seems to have that much value. Yeah, let anyone say anything. But, like, what are we gonna do anyway? That's the sad part. When you really think about, like... Well, I'm gonna go back to the Jeffrey Epstein case. Like, when you really think about it, what the fuck are you gonna do anyway? Like, the system is above you anyway. Like, imagine there's people going to jail for smoking weed. And then there's fucking Jeffrey Epstein, like a serial rapist, having his own fucking island, maybe even eating children over there. Who knows what? And the guy just gets to do it for however many years. And, like, that is insane. So the thing with Snowden is that he leaked all this, what the government does. They obviously called him a traitor, they called him a whistleblower. They said he's an asshole, just like with all of these people back then. And we can think what we think, but we don't really have the power to do anything. And that's a sad thing to think about. Like, you don't really have the power to go against the people that have this incredible power above you. So Snowden, he had to be exiled. He escaped to Russia. He's living there to this day. And he even stated in a podcast with Joe Rogan that he asked the jury that he would go into America under the condition, and there was only one condition that he wanted. It's that he can say why he did it. I'm not sure if I can get greedy with these marigolds over here. I don't know, man. Maybe I can do stars for this level. So we're gonna do the last level, and the last person that was right at the wrong time. And then I'm gonna finish up this episode. I think it was quite a long episode. Now, in case you live in Britain, or you're interested in World War II, you most likely have heard of this guy. He's even on the 50-pound note, or the 50-pound... Yeah, it's called a note, I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure. Just on the 50-pound cash. So, what is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is Alan Turing? This guy, he was a fucking genius. He was so smart when it came to computers. Like, he had this mind that he could, like, imagine all of the stuff. And you might have heard of the Code of Enigma. So what the fuck was the Code of Enigma, right? So back then, the Germans, they had this secret military communication. It was encrypted. They had a code in it. It was always changing. That was like, how do we crack that? Like, it's always changing. Then comes this genius guy, Alan Turing. And this guy, back then, he even thought about today's... Like, when you look at today's computers, this guy thought of it all. Apparently, it was like some even artificial intelligence stuff, which is incredible to imagine since it was in the 1950s. He wasn't exactly a soldier. He was kind of a nerd, if you think about it. He was called into the army to help specifically with cracking their code. Now, somehow, he managed to create a code-breaking machine. It was an early electromechanical device. Now, I'm not really sure how this all works. I'm pretty sure if I even tried to explain it, it would be like my explanation would suck ass, since I'm not really sure how all of this works. What's the important thing is, his code was always changing, was hiding very important data, and this guy came and he managed to solve it. Now, why was this important? Well, since it was Germans' communication, it was hiding very important stuff. So let's say they were talking and they were planning an ambush. And obviously, you would communicate that in a secret encrypted communication. And since they still thought it was encrypted, they would talk, well, I guess normally. Like, they'd be like, okay, so we're gonna ambush at this place at this time. Now, since the Britain knew all that, they had such an advantage. Like, imagine knowing that, like, the difference between knowing there's gonna be a guy breaking into your house in 10 minutes and not knowing that. Like, the difference is insane. It was also like some submarine communications. They were also managed. They managed to track that. There was so much it helped, and I even looked online, and there's some like historian debate of how significant this encryption of this secret Enigma code by this Alan Turing guy was. And apparently it shortened the war by at least 2 years. That is what the historians say. And you know, that's not just like some random people on the internet saying that this guy saved millions of lives. Those are genuine historians that brief for World War II. They spend, like, they dedicate most of their life to learning about this stuff, and they say they even say that it was that significant. So that's really something to think about. So how was this guy right at the wrong time? Well, the problem with this was a secret operation, obviously. Like most of the stuff in World War II, nobody could have known about it. Obviously, like if it would have gotten out to the media, then the Germans would have known that the Britain is trying to encrypt their code, and that would have sucked because they would have used a different code or different communication or something, right? Just some alternate way. Like we've said it before, exactly because Germans didn't know that Britain cracked this code, that's what got them that major advantage. And with that came the disadvantage for Alan Turing, the guy that cracked the code. Since nobody knew that, he wasn't publicly proclaimed a hero. It stayed secret even after. And you might think, okay, sure, well, that's interesting, but like, okay, so this guy wasn't given credit. That sucks. Well, no. Not only this guy wasn't given credit, he got his fucking balls cut off. He got his fucking balls chemically removed. Okay, maybe they weren't exactly cut off. Well, let's get to the point. So, in 1952, Turing, he was just chilling in his house, and he reported a burglary. Just like the example we had with the guy breaking into your house, now he didn't have the Enigma code to protect him. So, he had to call the police. Someone broke into his house. So there was an investigation, and he was an open homosexual. He wasn't hiding it. Well, once again, what a chat. Back then, when you were supposed to hide that, He wasn't shy for that. He wasn't gonna hide that. He even admitted to the police that he had a relationship with another man. Guess what? Even though they were investigating a burglary, they ignored that. They just said, "What? You had a relationship with a man? We're gonna imprison you." So then they gave them the option. Okay, either you're going into prison, or you're gonna go into a chemical treatment that's gonna suppress your sexuality. Now, he actually chose the treatment rather than going into prison. And that was like, he got some like hormone injections. It wasn't injections. It wasn't that it was a straight process of cutting off his balls. It was like a year-long process that gave him physical changes. It must have also changed him emotionally. Like, imagine losing that. That is fucking terrible. It's also, it's so fucking demeaning of someone to do that to another human, especially a human that saved like millions of lives. So that completely isolated him. And in 1954, at the age of 41, he most likely, it's also speculated that it could have been homicide, but he most likely committed suicide. And this definitely played a major role in it. And this is just one last example of seeing how being different is so fucking dangerous. So if there's one thing to learn today's day and age, that being different pays such a price that you have to be really careful about it. And I applaud all the heroes that take the risk of being different in whichever way. You can be ignorant about it, you can be stubborn about it. Sure. I understand that there's some people that just want to be different for the sake of it. And, well, yeah. But when you know who you are, and this is who you are, and you're not just doing it for attention, you're doing it because you're not even doing it. This is you. And you don't let someone reduce you like this. I mean, I applaud all the people. So this will be it for today's episode. We're gonna finish off with buying this mushroom garden and transporting it, this doom flower over here. I hope you take something away from this episode. It was great to talk about all of this. And if you enjoyed, sub. There will be another episode coming next week. Not sure what we will talk about. Maybe my girlfriend Sydney Sweeney. I don't know. So see you next time. And in case you have another story of a person that was right at the wrong time, write down in the comments. I'd love to learn more about that. See you.